is A to Z with Mark Zinno, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, where today I ask, who do you want to be? Welcome in. We are live here on this Wednesday afternoon, and we've got a lot to take care of here as we get one day closer to another Falcons football game. Braves wrapping up their West Coast swing here. They'll play an afternoon game today and then come back home. And, of course, we have some LIV Golf news to get to, my favorite subject of all things. Appreciate you guys starting your day with A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On ATL. Of course, I'm at Mark Zinno, MarkZinno. Don't forget to subscribe to that YouTube channel. Give that thumbs up to all the great content there. All right, let's start with Georgia because they're going to get their first taste of an SEC opponent coming up on Saturday. And I don't want to say a real opponent because guess what? My guess is Oregon is a lot more real than South Carolina is, but still, you know, a lot of people are going to quickly overlook and dismiss Oregon because Georgia pasted them 49-3. But what's interesting, what has happened with Georgia, for a team last year that had so much prowess defensively and had one of the best defenses in college football history last year, through the first two games, their offense is really what has stood out. Now, again, I know that they've only given up 3 total points on the season and have yet to give up a touchdown on defense. But still, what is different, what stands out is this offense. And what stands out, because if I would have told you at the beginning of the year that Georgia, heading into the game against South Carolina, would have the second best passing attack in the nation, behind Texas Tech, averaging 395 yards per game through the air, you would have told me, I don't believe it. Not with this quarterback. And you would have been right. I think that's fair. I think it's totally okay to have doubted Stetson Bennett and his ability to be that type of passer because we've never seen it before. And we didn't see it last year. We saw him be good. We saw him be consistent. We saw him make plays when he had to. But the difference was he was never called on to carry the offense. He carried them through the Georgia game. He didn't really have to do much against Samford. Nobody did. But still, that's not the point. Bennett's completing 75% of his passes on the year. His quarterback rating is through the roof. Make of that what you will, if it matters to you or not. But this is an offense right now that is predicated on throwing the football. Here's the interesting part. They're taking on a South Carolina team this week that has been gashed on the ground through two games so far. They have really been run all over, particularly last week against Arkansas. And since the Gamecocks have given up 247 rushing yards per game through the first 2 games, that would sort of lead you to believe that Georgia on Saturday will take that approach with Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton. I think that would make a lot of sense. I'm not sure that's exactly what Kirby Smart and Jeff Monken are going to do. I think that this Georgia offense will be one of the most balanced Georgia offenses you will see in modern memory. I genuinely believe that there is a desire now, and we'll see how they start this game because this will be very, very telling. But there is a genuine desire to sort of transition to the more modern offense, the more of what we've seen the rest of college football develop to. They don't have to be an air raid like, Texas Tech and Mississippi State and everything else. They don't need to do that. But I think they're going to be a much more competent passing team. Why? I'll tell you in a second. First, a word, from my friends at betonline.net, your number one online source for odds, lines, and games. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events right there at betonline.net. They have news and reviews of every league, including the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and golf. Guys, I was on betonline.net yesterday. Just a wealth of information out there if you're somebody who likes to gamble, or you like somebody who likes that information that you need to figure out who's going to win a certain game, BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, podcasts. They've got you covered on all of it. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action that is happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. Why is Georgia going to transition to this new offense? Because they know it's going to win more national titles. It's that simple. And I understand that Georgia will still have a running game. They won't abandon it. But maybe the concept of RBU is going to fall by the wayside a little bit due to necessity more than lack of talent or recruiting or scheme or whatever. Maybe it just feels like Georgia is starting to evolve with the times, and good coaches do. And Kirby Smart understands that. Now, they're going to head into Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday, a place that has often been a thorn in the side of the Bulldogs over the years. Georgia actually lost to South Carolina. That game was in Athens, so it was an overtime game, 20-17. Other than that, in the past, three of the previous four meetings, Georgia has been in the 40s, and they haven't even allowed 20. So they've won each of those games by 20-plus points, including 2 games in Columbia, and they have basically pasted that team. This game should take a similar form to that. However, Shane Beamer and their quarterback now, Spencer Rattler, the former Oklahoma quarterback, right? Part 2, I think, after Caleb. Anyway, they don't quit. That team's going to play for full 60 minutes. They're going to keep coming. But I am so curious to see how Georgia starts this game, whether they lean into the run like we would expect them to do and control the game and control the tempo as much as they can, or they just do what they did to Oregon. Because there's every reason for them to sit there and go, Oregon's better than South Carolina. They have more talent than South Carolina. They have one of the best defensive players in the country on defense, and South Carolina does not. And we scored touchdowns on our first 7 offensive drives. What do we need to do different? The answer? Nothing. Nothing. I mean, the point simply is this, is that even the most ardent Stetson Bennett detractors, hello, me right here, I'm one of those guys. Even one of those should know and understand that things have changed. And while I don't think Stetson Bennett is going to win the Heisman, I don't even think he's going to be in the conversation. What I do think is genuinely this passing attack could become something different than what we've ever seen before. And I don't think for one second Kirby Smart's going to let up this weekend. I think he still wants to send a message to everybody about how good this team is and about how much they are the team to beat in college football. They've got the number 1 ranking now. It'll be theirs for the rest of the year as long as they don't lose a game. I think that means something to Kirby. I think Kirby wanting to finish the season number 1 overall and go to the playoffs and win a national title, those are kind of the things that they would deem, a perfect season. And that stuff is kind of important to Kirby. All right, coming up next, an interesting move by Brian Snitker last night as the Braves avoid their first 4-game losing streak of the season. They'll close out the West Coast trip coming up today. As well, how will the Falcons approach the Los Angeles Rams? That's coming up next right here on A to Z on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, search Locked On. Welcome back to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, search Locked On Sports Atlanta. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. Give the thumbs up and like to all the content there. Check out all the shows on Locked On Sports Atlanta. This is A to Z. I've Hitting Hard with John Chuckery, ATL Day Ones with Jarvis Davis and Tanitra Batiste. Of course, our Braves postcast after every Braves game, as well as Locked On Falcons, Locked On Hawks, all right here on your best spot for Atlanta sports, Locked On Sports Atlanta. All right, let's get to the Braves. I just mentioned them. They win yesterday. A 5-1 win over the San Francisco Giants. They get some timely hitting. Dansby goes deep, and game was never really close. It was interesting to see, though, that in a non-save situation, Kenley Jansen comes in the 9th, gives up a hit, but doesn't give up any runs. And it was one of those things where you could argue, well, he hadn't pitched since I think it was Sunday prior to that. And so he was just getting him some work because you don't want guys to sit down for that extended period. Let me just double check. He pitched on Tuesday. He pitched on Tuesday, which was last night, and he hadn't pitched on Sunday. So he uses him in a non-save situation. He also uses Raciel Iglesias last night in the 8th. So wanting to make sure, and I think that's what that was more about, was wanting to make sure that, hey, they don't fall into this 4-game losing streak deal. He went with, door shut in the 8th and the 9th. What happens if a save is required today? Will he go to Iglesias? Will he go to Jansen? I think at this point in time, everybody needs to put down the idea that he's going to move off Kenley Jansen as a closer. It's probably in your best mental sanity if you just don't worry about it, right? Like, honestly, there's no reason to believe that he is going to move off Kenley. So everyone needs to get used to that idea. And if a high leverage spot comes up, he's got other guys in the bullpen that he can trust and that he can absolutely lean on in those spots. So all things considered, I don't know that it was curious per se. Like I said, you could argue he definitely wanted to get him some work. And winning that game was super important because guess what? They were able to look up at the scoreboard and see that the Cubs beat the Mets 4-1. So closing that game out was big because now they're a half game out of the Mets. And so I think some of that predicated some of the decisions that were being made. I get it. I understand. But still, I am pretty confident at this point in time that he has made his decision that Kenley is his closer and he's not going to move off of it. And I think everybody needs to just get comfortable with that idea that it's going to be a bumpy ride. He's not the first manager to go into a playoff run or even the playoffs themselves with a less than steady closer. And he did it last year in a certain extent with Will Smith. So there's no reason to believe that he wouldn't do it again this year and that it wouldn't work. Just is what it is. So buckle in for a bumpy ride. This is where we are. Got to learn to deal with it. They send Charlie Morton to the mound today to try to get a win on the last day of this road trip. And I think the Mets are off today. I got to double check real quick. And so the Braves can tie again for first place as they head into, another big series. Yeah, the Mets are off today. Oh, no, they're not. I'm sorry. They get the Cubs tonight. So I don't know when their other off day is because the Mets have played one more game, but still, nonetheless. So big night tonight, or big afternoon, I should say. Morton and Rodome. And then tonight, the Mets will have Drew Peterson going against Drew Smiley. Interesting. I'm sorry, David Peterson. I was like, Battle of the Drews. No, not Battle of the Drews. Hey, before we get to the Atlanta Falcons, I want to take a second to tell you about my friends at Coffee AM and coffeeam.com. Best small batch coffee roaster in America, and it's right here in Georgia. The freshest coffee. Why is it so fresh? Because they're roasted and shipped on the same day or close to it. That box is going to arrive at your front door. You're going to pop it open, and you're going to smell nothing but the finest coffee from around the world. And when I say around the world, I literally mean it. Everywhere from Tanzania. Do you know where that is? No. Sumatra. How about that? Not really sure. Kenya. I think I know where that one is. Costa Rica. Definitely know where that one is. But nonetheless, it's all over the world. And it is delicious. It's the way I start every morning with a Coffee AM K-Cup. Drop it right in there and just have some amazing tasting coffee. If you love coffee, you got to check out Coffee AM. Go to coffeeam.com/lockedon and check out the full menu of coffees, teas, and gift sets. Again, that's coffeeam.com/lockedon. Use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. You'll get 15% off your first order of coffees, teas, and gift sets. Coffee AM, the best small batch coffee roaster in America. And it's right here in Georgia. All right. Falcons, Rams coming up on Sunday. As of right now, I still think I'm taking the Falcons plus the points again this week. There's no reason for me not to. I know that the Rams have a extra edge on rest as they played the opener on Thursday night, and they're coming off a loss, so they're going to be extra hungry. And obviously the Falcons blew a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter. But if I understand anything about Arthur Smith, and I feel like I understand a decent amount, I understand that he is very much in tune with his process and believes in it. I think the Falcons did so many things right in week one. And I said that the day after. I've been saying it all week long, that there were a lot of good things to take away from the week one game that I think will carry over. The one question about what I'm not sure will carry over is 22 carries from Cordero Patterson. I don't know if that is a sustainable number for a 31-year-old guy who's been often injured throughout his career. But there's every reason to believe at this point in time. And remember, the sample size is small, but I can't look at last year right now and say, okay, the things that happened last year are definitively the things that are going to happen this year. Because last year, there wasn't a game where they rushed for 200 yards, had 4 sacks, didn't throw an interception, and didn't get sacked. In fact, I wonder when the last time that game happened for the Atlanta Falcons. But nonetheless, it's got to be early on in the Mike Smith era, is my guess. The 13-3 year. Probably, 2012 would probably be my guess. But regardless, why wouldn't they be able to run the ball? I don't know. Did the Bills have a hard time running the ball in week one? The Bills didn't look like they had a hard time doing anything in week one against the Rams. So I am somebody who looks at this situation objectively and says, I can believe the things that I saw in week one. Now, I don't know if they'll get to the quarterback that much as they did last week, but I think that there's every chance that they will be able to run the ball as well as they did and hopefully protect the quarterback as well as they did. That to me is, something that I think we could take away from the game that makes a lot of sense. If they can protect Marcus Mariota again and they can give him an opportunity to stay as clean as possible, they'll be in this game. Just don't get blown out. That's what I've said repeatedly. Don't get blown out because you don't have to win this game, but you got to be competitive. And being competitive leads to more and more games where you have a chance to win them. And eventually some of them will bounce their way. So I am excited for what they put out on the field this week. I think they are going to really maybe surprise some people with how much they're going to be in this game. And, like I said last week, I don't think they're going to win it, but I think they're going to be competitive. And there's something to be said for that. All right, coming up next, we'll hand out some shovels of wisdom as well. LIV Golf, doing something we've never seen before. That's coming up next right here on A to Z. Welcome back to A to Z. Final segment here, Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Search Locked On Sports Atlanta. Before we get to my favorite subject of LIV Golf, let's hand out some shovels of wisdom.
Brace yourselves, because it's time for the shovel of wisdom.
You know how we do it every day. Got to whack somebody straight upside the head. Let them know who they are and what they did wrong. And you can do so on my Twitter account, @MarkZinno. Of course, use the hashtag shovel of wisdom. Like today, can I just give out a rapid fire set of shovels to like 3 people? Here we go. Let's start with Nathaniel Hackett. Back-to-back days. Hackett told the media on Monday, maybe we should have gone for it on 4th down instead of trying a 64-yard field goal. No crap, dummy. Everybody in America knew that, but you, dummy. Unreal. Hey, did you hear about the Suns owner, Robert Sarver? This guy fined $10 million after an investigation finds conduct clearly violated workplace standards. There you go. Instances of inequitable conduct toward female employees, sex-related comments, inappropriate comments on employees' appearances. From what I understand, I think in reading this thing, he actually used the N-word 5 times. He was suspended by the league for 1 year and fined $10 million. And to top it all off, guess what? Another shovel here. We already gave this one out. We'll do it again to Brett Favre. To get this, now it's found out an investigative report revealed that Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant helped former NFL quarterback Brett Favre obtain welfare funds in order to help build a new volleyball center at the University of Southern Miss. Unreal. So Brett Favre was paid to do these speeches that he never actually did. Favre wrote in a text message, quote, "If you were to pay me, is there any way the media could find out how and find out where it came from and how much?" Way to go, Brett Favre. You better do some more Tommy Copper. What are they? It's like a shave thing, and then he had like the copper thing that was going on for his. Anyway, you just gotta hope you don't go to jail. Don't be a schmuck. Don't take money that you didn't earn in the conversation. Okay. Speaking of money, LIV Golf. Oh, they really are. Making headline once again. Golfers are going to compete in LIV Golf for $50 million. It's the richest purse in the sports history in the LIV Golf season-ending team championship, which is scheduled to be played down in Miami at Doral from October 27th through the 30th. 12 four-man teams are going to compete for $16 million as a first-place prize. Teams will be seeded 1 through 12. Top 4 seeds will receive a bye to the quarterfinals. The other 8 will play in qualifying round. Now, how will seeding be determined? If this, by a closest to the pin shootout by team captains, which will take place immediately after players are drafted. Okay. Here is where I want to divert from, I want to divert from LIV Golf a little bit. I know people love the idea of shootouts, a 3-point contest or whatever. There are certain people who love the idea of the old school way of picking teams in basketball. Everybody lines up at the free throw line. If you make it, you're on team A. If you miss it, you're on team B. And that's it, right? Some people like that sort of stuff. I don't. I think there should be some sort of ranking system. That said, it's very telling, the comments from one longtime PGA Tour player about the way that they are doing the closest to the pin. Now, the rules are, real quick before I get to this player's comments, the rules are the team captain shot to finish closest to the target will be designated as the first seed, and then each closest one, based on the proximity to the target, will end up being the second. That seems kind of cool. Hey, you put your best guy up there and have him make a shot, right? Most people, I think, are okay with that. I don't like it, but I'm not going to go as far as to say this. Quote, "It's very unsurprising they would pick something so tacky and unoriginal to try to expand the game. It's bleeping lame is what it is. It's lame as bleep. XFL, it's N1 mixtape tour. It's not competitive golf. It's a circus." Now, that sounds very old man get off my lawn-ish when it says longtime PGA Tour player. My guess is that's not Rory McIlroy. My guess is that's not Scotty Scheffler. My guess is that's not, who else is still there that's worthwhile? I can't remember. But anyway, it's not those guys. That's the whole, hey, what do you think, Lee Trevino? Get the point. That's old guy get off my lawn. It's not ideal. I wouldn't call it bleeping lame. I wouldn't call it XFL and N1 mixtape tour. Oh, by the way, those things are targeted, XFL and N1. They're targeted at younger people. They're not targeted at you, old man. They're really not. And so, from that standpoint, who cares what you think? Because I know LIV Golf doesn't care what you think. You know who else doesn't care what you think? The dudes on those 16 teams. They don't care what you think. Or 12 teams, rather. They don't care what you think. You want to know why? They're there for one other thing. Your thoughts ain't it. It's the money. That's okay. Another PGA Tour player said it's not competitive. The real competitive golfers, guys who play on the PGA Tour and compete majors, it's why they're just not interested in this nonsense. I don't understand why it's not competitive golf. That to me is flawed. That's like saying that the USFL or the AAF or whatever it was wasn't competitive football. It was competitive football. It just wasn't the same. That doesn't mean it's not competitive. It doesn't mean that the players out on the field don't want to compete. Stop being surly. Stop giving your 2 cents in. You know what? And here's the other thing. For all you PGA Tour golfers who want to make these comments, if you don't have the balls to put your name to it, then shut up. Seriously. Shut up. If you don't want to put your name to a comment like that, then zip it. Because no one cares what you think. If you're so over the top and so passionate about what LIV Golf is doing as not competitive golf, as lame as you know what, as a circus, then stand behind your comment, put your damn name on it. Stop being chicken bleep and acting like, oh my God, I can't stand it. Throw a pair, honestly. It's like insane that nobody wants to put their name on any of this stuff. They just want to fire pot shots across. You know what you haven't heard? A single one of these LIV golfers taking a dump on the PGA Tour for the way they treated players, for their draconian rules, for their archaic philosophy about the way players should get money. They don't say a single word about it. You know what they do? They go out and play golf and collect paychecks. But for some reason, everybody on the PGA Tour has some sort of definitive idea of what real golf is, and nobody else should be allowed to play any other form of it. You guys are a joke with your anonymous comments. You really are. Like, it's beyond at this point. If you don't have enough guts to put your name to it, shut up. Because I don't want to hear about your long-time PGA Tour or one PGA golfer. I don't care. You clearly don't mean it that much if you don't want to put your name on it. It's that simple. Don't be a source. Be a person. I support this golf. This golf goes on forever. Rock on. All right, that'll do it for us today here on A to Z. Back tomorrow, a Thursday edition. Thursday night football. Oh boy, get closer to the weekend. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for making A to Z your first listen. Make it John Chuckery your next listen right here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Not on A to Z. On Locked On Sports Atlanta. Again, follow on Twitter at Locked On ATL. I'm at Mark Zinno, MARKZINNO. You guys have a wonderful Wednesday. Don't take any crap from anybody.